So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to add some foliage to the scene. But the first thing that I want to do is as I change my lighting and I come, you can see if as I move, the scene is like getting brighter and darker, and it's pretty much working with how our eyes work, which isn't really the way we want this to work when we're actually trying to light the scene. So before we get into the foliage, let's go to the square here. And I want you to go to visual effects, and I want you to add a post process volume. All right. And it adds this box, and it's fun where it's at. It really doesn't matter. But we need to do a couple of things here. The first thing, with that selected, let's go in and hit infinite, and you'll see infinite extend. Right now, if we don't check this, it's only going to work when we're like inside the box. That's the only time the lighting will stay where it won't change. So with this checked, it's going to add this to our whole entire level, our whole scene here. So we don't have to do anything else. And then the next thing we need to do is change the exposure. So if I go in and click exposure, you can see that here it is. We have the minimum, maximum, the minimum brightness and maximum brightness. So I'm gonna change this to 1 and 1. All right, and now you can see that now I can go in and my lighting is normal. So now if I hit Control L, I can go in and get my lighting the way that I actually want it to look. And it's all about playing with it. But once I get it to that point, then it's kind of fine where it is. But that's sort of what we want to do, and I can just kind of lift this up so it's not distracting you or anything. And now as I go, that lighting isn't fluctuating at all, and now I can just kind of get it the way that I need to get it. And that seems kind of fine. All right, cool. So let's add some foliage just to make the scene look kind of cool. And I could add other content like rocks and stuff like that to the ground just to make this more appealing. And that's the thing about this type of stuff. It's all about detail and the stuff that you add. I'm just not adding all that stuff for the sake of time. But if I was working on this for a project or something like that, I would be spending a lot of time trying to make sure my scene and my lighting looks great. So let's go in and add some foliage. So what I can do is if I click this mode here, I can go to foliage. All right. And because we added those assets, those grass assets, they automatically get added to our foliage. Unreal is smart enough to know, like, hey, this is grass, so I can come in and I can select these. So if I hover over them and I click this, now what it does is it knows that I am adding foliage to my scene here. All right. Now the other thing is that you may want to pay attention to. Now you can select multiple of these, so I could select this one too, and this one, and I can have all of those sort of selected if I wanted to add all of those. All right. Now you can see that my brush is sort of big, so I'm gonna go down to brush size and just kind of scale that back a little bit. I don't want it too big, and that's still a little bit too big. Bring this down. I don't want it too big. Okay, yeah, that's perfect. All right, so I'm at like 138. All right, now the other thing is the scale. Because it's going to add multiple of these, you can go in and change the scale. So for minimum, I can do like 0.04, and then to the max, 1 is probably good, but I can say like 1.5. So what it's going to do is it's going to give me variations of these. So now if I go in, because I have those checked, if I go in, I start adding, I could go in and start adding ground elements. And you can see that this is adding some grass to my scene here. Now I could also uncheck these, and then I could add more of like these. So if I click this one and this one, now it's going to add those other ones to the scene. It's just adding a little bit of foliage to the scene here. And now it's starting to look a little bit better. So that's how you can add foliage. And like if I wanted trees, you would see those there. But this is how you can just kind of add that stuff to your scene. If you want one that's singular, feel free to just add those to the scene as well. But that's a cool way to get what you want. I could add more grass elements. Now, the more that you do this, the more your render times kind of go crazy. But you also can go to the paint density, and that will add a lot more to the scene where it's increasing the density of these. All right. So that's how you can go in and add foliage, and now my scene is starting to look a little bit better here. And that's what foliage will do. And if I go out of this mode, now you can see I have grass, I have a scene here, and we could play around with this more. All right, so that's the end of this video.